welcome to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Kentucky attorney Jeff Roberts has over 25 years of experience. He'll provide answers to your questions related to personal injury and automobile accidents, workers' compensation claims, and Social Security disability benefits. Let's join Jeff for this episode. And friends, welcome back. We're back in the studio with attorney Jeff Roberts from Callaway County. Jeff, how are you?
Doing good, Jim. How are you today?
Buddy, I'm doing good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this, you're noticing that you're actually watching something as opposed to just listening to the podcast. So we are transitioning now to a video-based podcast for Jeff Roberts and the Roberts Law Firm. And I think what we're going to try to do is put out small snippets from this as we go. So you'll be able to find that on YouTube. You'll be able to find that out on Facebook and some other media platforms. But you'll also have that uploaded to the website. But if you like the audio version, you'll still have access to that. But we thought, you know what the heck, let's kind of get with the times and migrate to a video-based podcast.
I will eventually catch up to the new program on things. I'm usually a beat behind everybody else on that.
Not a problem at all. In fact, talking about catching up with the times, today's episode is going to focus on an issue that's kind of crept up lately with AI. So if you're out there right now, you're hearing all sorts of things about AI, what it can do for you, what it might, how it might take over the world, how it might help you or hurt you, depending on what your view is. Reality is it's here, and we're going to have to grapple with it a little bit. But Jeff, you've started to see really some different advertisements and some different things that have popped up on your social media that kind of gave us you know what, we ought to think about this and talk about this on the podcast.
Yeah, I have. I saw some things the other day. I don't know why they popped up. I must have been talking to someone about AI and our phones listen to us at times. And I started seeing these ads pop up that actually caused me a little bit of concern because of what they were saying in that ad, and seen several different ones, but it is a situation where they're advertising these AI platforms and programs that they're saying you don't need an attorney if you've been injured in a car wreck or had a personal injury. You don't need an attorney. We used this program and ended up getting a lot more money for a settlement in our case and didn't have an attorney involved in the case from that standpoint. And I can see some serious problems develop with that type of platform, that type of advertising, and some people being taken advantage of.
And that's the sad thing. I mean, when you hear those advertisements, you start thinking, wow, maybe attorney fees or whatever, there could be some money I might be able to save, or maybe it gets me a better, result. But the reality is you've got over 30 years of experience in Western Kentucky and across the rest of Kentucky litigating personal injury and car wreck, motorcycle accidents, trucking collisions, workers' comp cases, Social Security disability cases. The fact is you've had your hands in it for 3 decades.
Yes. For over 3 decades, I've been doing that. It's started off doing personal injury when I started practicing in 1992, and have basically done that pretty much exclusively my entire career in that regard. And I'm not anti-AI at all. I actually do use some AI stuff in my office from there, but I can see, first off, with the AI platforms, if you don't have the legal knowledge, the background, some medical understanding, I can see it just causing problems with just submitting your information up to this platform. It spits back a letter that you send to the insurance company, and think that you're doing it in the right way to try to resolve your claim on your own. And some people want to resolve it on their own, and they do have that ability to do that and the right to do that. You're not required to get an attorney. Usually better off to have an attorney, but you're not required to get an attorney.
And they call that pro se representation, right? The legal term is you're going up there by yourself. Pro se, meaning you're not represented.
Correct. Pro se means you don't have an attorney. You're by yourself in that regard. And usually insurance adjusters smile when you're going pro se in that type of case. So and where I see these come in is some of the problems coming in from that, there's several different ones. One is some of these programs are not locked tight. So you put your information in them, and then that information is available out there for other people to see and for the AI programs to use from that standpoint. So you're taking your personal information. If you upload your medical records or something of that nature, then you are essentially sharing your very private information in a potentially public setting in that regard.
And that was the whole reason we had HIPAA laws, to protect the individual from having his or her medical records shared by the hospital or the medical provider to other people who are not really directly related in that care. But now here you might be doing it inadvertently, voluntarily.
Correct, exactly. And so you've got to do that research up front to find out if they are sharing your information, selling your information from that standpoint. And some of these programs do, unless you pay a fee. And some of them you pay a fee and you get, the free version. They make the money on the back end by selling the information, or I'm not sure how they make the money, but at least that's a risk there. The paid version, then it doesn't go outside of your paid subscription, so to speak, so nobody else has access to it, and that's a little better from that standpoint. And then another problem, and I think could be a very big problem for some people, is that some of these AI programs, I think the term that's used in the industry is hallucinates. It creates things. There's been attorneys who have been sanctioned by courts and by bar associations because they have an AI program draft a pleading and it created cases or said something that it didn't say, created cases that did not exist and said they said this position. And when you do that and you submit that to court, attorney submits that to court, then that is likely an ethical violation and clearly violates Civil Rule 11 there that subjects the attorney to being sanctioned for doing that. The attorney is supposed to go through and double check all of that kind of stuff if you're using AI to draft a pleading. Some concern over that, in my opinion. But if you're doing that, you've got to go through and double check everything in it, make sure the facts are correct, make sure the law is being cited correctly, and the cases are there. The problem that will come in my opinion, or potentially, is with these programs, if they hallucinate a medical condition that you don't really have. So if you've suffered a whiplash injury in a car wreck, and that program spits out a letter that says that plaintiff not only suffered a whiplash injury, but suffered a low back injury and has all these problems from the low back injury, and is entitled to compensation, and then you submit that to the insurance company without looking at it. That probably under a lot of state statutes is going to qualify as insurance fraud. Because
and that victim who's been injured is now liable for something they didn't realize they were doing.
Could be, yes, they could have some liabilities, some potential criminal penalties for committing insurance fraud if they're trying to claim an injury that they didn't really have, and they just relied on the program to do what the program said it was going to do, but then, like AI programs can do, create something that really didn't exist beforehand.
Well, and that's where, ladies and gentlemen, if you've listened to this podcast for any period of time, we've done this for years now, where I think this is episode 130 or something like that. If you listen to these podcasts, you get a sense for how complicated handling a case is, whether you're still negotiating it or whether you actually have moved to litigating the case. A lot of paperwork, a lot of deadlines, a lot of medical jargon, because you deal with injury cases primarily. It's easy to kind of look at something that AI may present and assume, oh yeah, that sounds right, when you have no basis. You don't know. It's just words on a paper. And like you said, you could be opening yourself up for fraud issues, mischaracterizations, and even criminal charges.
Right.
Ultimately, it's going to damage your case potentially.
It could damage your case significantly in that regard. And so, one of the things that is a part of the valuation process in these cases is the credibility of the plaintiff. And if you submit something like that to the insurance company, even unknowingly submit it to the insurance company, then that your credibility is first, it's damaged with the insurance company at that point in time, and that's going to hurt the value of your claim or any settlement that they're going to offer you. Plus, if you have to get in litigation, and I can almost guarantee you the jury is going to be shown, if your case goes to trial, you send a letter to the insurance company asking for XYZ money, claiming not only a whiplash injury, but claiming you injured your low back, and you've already agreed you didn't injure your low back in your deposition, but they hopefully won't use the term lied, but they said you basically misrepresented your injuries to the insurance company to get more money, and now you're up here asking this jury for more money. And so, I don't. Some jurors may understand it. In West Kentucky, where I primarily practice at, you're going to have a hard time coming back from that in front of a jury.
It's hard to put the genie back in the bottle. I mean, once that's out, people start questioning your credibility. And even though it could have been an honest mistake, you don't have an attorney there to redirect or to ask you a follow-up question on your side because you came in pro se.
Well, even after, if you've done that letter beforehand that says that, and then you get an attorney after that, it's still, the attorney's going to have a really, really hard time overcoming that. In fact, if I were to know about it going in, that's an issue when somebody comes to see me about the case, probably going to make me think twice before I take that client on, because I know we go in front of a jury, exhibit number one for the defendant is going to be that letter that was sent to the insurance company that had the client's name on it, sent by the client into the insurance company. And that is just, it's going to be very, very difficult to overcome that. If you have to try the case.
Jeff, let me ask you this. It's not all that uncommon for a decision to get appealed. And that could be appealed either by the insurance company's attorneys, or it may be something you appeal on behalf of your client. You take it up to the next level of the judicial system. I believe we had an episode where we were talking about why you may or may not want to hire a national Social Security disability group to represent you. Some of them are not actually attorneys. They're not licensed attorneys. They're more representatives.
Right.
And I think I remember you saying they can't represent you in certain courts because they're not attorneys. Would someone who is using AI to represent themselves kind of get into that same situation, or pro se, can they go on up through the system?
Well, they could, from a Social Security standpoint. Yeah, I mean, you can file a claim pro se in court. From that, but an attorney, as an attorney, I cannot file a case in a state or in a jurisdiction I'm not licensed to practice in, or admitted to practice in federal court. And that's where, so you have, as we've talked about in that episode, the Social Security Administration allows representatives to represent people at the administrative level who are not attorneys, but they cannot file the case in federal court.
Right.
Because you have to be a licensed attorney to do that. And I've had people come to me after they had exhausted all the administrative avenues, where the person that was representing them at the administrative level says, I can't go any further. You're going to have to go to an attorney now. And, rare that an attorney's going to take a case on to appeal to federal court, a Social Security case, to appeal to federal court if they didn't handle the case.
Right.
From the AI standpoint, I think we're another issue that comes into play, or potentially anyway, is there are deadlines for filing these cases. There's a statute of limitations, and you have to have your claim filed within that deadline. And depending on what type of case it is, a premises liability case and a car wreck have two different statutes of limitations. Medical negligence has a different statute of limitations than a car wreck case. And so if you are working pro se and using an AI program to draft a demand letter or whatever it is, one of the things when I talk to my clients, a lot of those times when I'm talking to a new client and I tell them about the statute of limitations,
right,
that they had no clue that there was a deadline for filing the claim in that case. And I'd tell them there was even cases when I talk to people, if we don't take their case on, I'll tell them about the statute of limitations and follow it up with a letter that again reiterates this is the deadline for filing this case, and you need to make sure you comply with that deadline. Well, if you don't know that, and this AI is just generating documents for you, it's not giving you legal advice or legal advice that I would be relying upon anyway, personally. And so then you go through this for a while and try to work the process out, and then you say, okay, well, I'm going to have to get an attorney. You call an attorney, and you very well may hear, I'm sorry, but your statute of limitations is already run. Your case, you're not going to be able to pursue this any further. So.
And friends, we've done a separate episode, a full episode dealing with statute of limitation issues. And so in the show notes, I'll put a link to that episode for you. So if you want some more background on why that is such a critical factor in any case, you really ought to spend a few minutes just kind of going through that and understanding, really, I mean, that can block you from pursuing a claim at all.
Yes.
If you've gone past that. And AI may or may not be cognizant of that, or, who knows? I mean, it just, there's so much that goes into this. I've always said, in so many of these episodes, once again, let me come back to the theme, how complex it is. And, I've seen you, send out demand letters. I've seen you send out settlement going back and forth. We've talked about depositions. We've talked about all of this.
Yeah.
I don't see how AI, you may get something from the other side and wonder, okay, what do I do with it? Do I scan it or do I submit it? And then AI is supposed to figure that out for you?
Right.
I mean, I could just see this being a rat's nest, and suddenly you're so tangled up that nobody wants to touch it.
I foresee that coming about with these programs. Again,
and that's unfortunate. But,
yes.
But I mean, you got to be careful with, the way you pursue this.
Yes. And I mean, it's the AI process is, again, I'm not downplaying AI. It's got its uses and its benefits from that standpoint, but it's got its limitations.
Yeah.
And, like I said before, I use AI in a limited capacity in my office. I know other law firms that do the same thing. Insurance companies use AI from that and have for years as well. So, it's being used, but it's being used by the professionals who understand the law and the background behind it and have the protections there as well. And that's another thing that before we started that you'd mentioned, Jim, is there is protection. If you're relying on an AI program to help you with your case, and then in your statute runs and you don't know it and AI doesn't warn you about that, you've lost your case and you have no recourse against the AI program. Go ahead.
Or they misrepresent the injuries or all these other things that we've talked about, all these mistakes that can be made. I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's not just the statute.
No, exactly. Yeah. There's other things. And if it makes a mistake, there's no recourse against them, or at least I'm assuming there's not going to be. I haven't read their contracts from that perspective, but I can almost guarantee that they are, this is for informational purposes and we're not verifying that what we're saying is accurate, et cetera, et cetera. Right. And that agreement's going to be drafted so far in favor of the AI company. I know it's going to be protect them from any liability in that regard. Yeah. Whereas if you have an attorney, hopefully your attorney is not going to miss your statute of limitations, but attorneys make mistakes like everybody else there. And if they make a mistake, then you do have recourse in that regard. And so you're not the one who loses out. The attorney or the attorney's malpractice insurance company is the one that would take care of your damages in that situation, not not that you lose your claim completely then.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, you have a fallback position, whereas it's kind of hard to say, well, now I have to go sue AI or the company that had this program. To your point, that document is that fine print is probably so deep that you're probably not gonna win that one.
Exactly.
Yeah. And for years we've heard this phrase, garbage in, garbage out. I mean, if I'm giving a computer program information, it really only deals with the information I give it. It doesn't, it may be able to add other questions. Hey, well, what about this? What about that? Again, if you're unfamiliar with the terminology, if you don't understand the medical records, if you maybe are having some problem remembering certain facts, you may not give it a full and complete picture. And therefore, the advice you're getting back from AI is a little suspect.
Correct. And if you're not uploading the documents, well, if you're uploading the documents and then it's reading those, it can make an error in reading that. But if you're not uploading the documents and you're typing the information in about your injuries, well, if you start typing in a medical term, if you've got a herniated disc with radiculopathy, then
I have to spell that in the show notes, right?
No,
Thank you.
I did not know you had to. Okay,
thank you.
Sorry about that. So, but if you start typing that in and you have an error or autocorrect is turned on, and then it changes the word that you're typing because you didn't spell it correctly or something, changes it to something completely different. And if I go back and read, when I draft demand letters and all of that, I dictate them, my staff types them up, and sometimes they're not spelled correctly there, and it's changed to something else because they weren't sure what I was saying or whatever, and I have to correct it. But I make that correction before it goes out to the insurance company, where you may be saying, have tried to type in exactly what's in the medical records, and then unfortunately, autocorrect has changed it on submitting it into that AI program, and the AI program would then run with it. So.
Well, there's the old joke of, have you ever tried to read a doctor's handwriting? They're notoriously poor, at handwriting. Some of the medical records are actually the physician's notes. And so those can be handwritten notes. And so AI, I don't see how AI is going to wade through that unless maybe it has transcribed it somehow. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I rarely get, there's some places I get handwritten notes from now, but it's very, very rare now.
Okay,
good. Electronic medical records are pretty well mandated now. And yeah, I practice when you got handwritten notes and trying to decipher those notes. And most doctors had their own shorthand for different conditions and trying to decipher exactly what they were saying. Like I won't say the word again, but instead of, so you don't have to repeat it again, but that, that condition there, they might just put RAD.
Right.
And so, they know what they mean by RAD, but, it can be interpreted by somebody else as a bunch of different other words. And so you've got to figure out what they're saying there. And I agree, AI is going to have a hard time doing that. But even then, I get records in that where they have dictated and it's kind of auto transcribe thing, and it's clearly not what was said. I mean, I'd read through the record and I look at what was in the medical record, and I thought, you're talking about this body part, and then you're talking about toes and the injuries to the arm. So clearly, a lot of times I can figure out what they're saying because it's
context. Maybe
the context will let me know, and then a word that sounds similar to that, and then I can figure it out at times. But I don't think AI is even going to try to do that.
Well, I mean, if you've ever used voice to text, you know how easy it is for that to get just totally garbled.
Yes.
So that's my real Siri and I have an ongoing battle. So some days she wins, some days I win. It is what it is. But just voice to text itself, I could see these transcription services having similar struggles, especially with medical terminology.
Right.
And again, with the types of letters, it's not just a 1 or 2 page letter. Sometimes the documents that you're submitting are pages and pages and pages deep. And if you're an average consumer, and you're just trying to read through it to find out, well, did AI get it right? You're just totally lost by page 4, and you may have a 30-page or more document there. I just see mistakes everywhere, potential mistakes everywhere, and
Yes.
it's just going to be overwhelming.
Yeah, I've had demand letters that I've sent to the insurance companies in cases that were over 60 pages.
Wow.
Not counting that's just the demand letter, not counting the medical records and everything else that's attached to that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it's a properly drafted demand letter is usually very long.
Yeah. Because you're spelling out case by case, point by point, and what is ultimately going to justify the demand.
Right.
That you're
I am
asking for.
attempting to justify the amount that I'm asking for and seeking for my client there. And that is and I go through, and when we do that, I go through them with a fine tooth comb. I have a paralegal that goes through them with a fine tooth comb. And you've got, there's a program on my system that goes through to catch typographical errors, grammatical errors, and things of that nature that I use as well. And so, there's multiple backstops from to make sure everything that leaves the office in that regard is accurate, 100% accurate. And, the AI program doesn't have that backstop.
Good point.
And if it comes to you can read through it, and hopefully you do. If you use the program, hopefully you don't use the program. But if you use a program like that, if you want to read through a 50-page demand package, I don't know if they'll draft them that long or how long they are. But if you want to do that and make sure everything is correct in there, but then it's a lot of work to do that.
Well, then there's just the reality of it. There's a reason it's 50 or 60 pages deep. It's because of the specificity. And if AI wants to shortcut that, it's not really doing you a service necessarily. I mean, again, if you could have written it in 3 pages, you would have done so. But maybe it took 50 to 60 pages to get there. And again, there's a reason you have experience. There's a reason that you've litigated these cases and negotiated and settled these cases. There's a reason why people come to you. It's because it's the experience.
Right.
And AI, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's certain situations, not a lot of them, but there are certain situations where my demand letters are 3 or 4 pages long.
Yeah.
And so it's fact specific. But if I've got, my client's got significant injuries, and I know we've got a minimum limits policy, I'm not going to spend the time to draft a 50-page demand letter in that one when I can clearly show your policy is $25,000 and my client's injuries are, my client's had neck surgery because of this accident. That's
yeah, I've already got $50,000 or $100,000 for the medical bills,
and now offer me your limit so that I can go to the next layers of coverage.
Yeah,
and that's something else that I don't know these programs. I hadn't looked at them, but if you settle with the insurance company, the liability carrier, and you don't follow the proper steps, you then have waived your ability to pursue the underinsured motorist carrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've talked, there's one podcast episode where we talked about why you need an attorney, and you need to go back and listen to that episode if you're thinking of using one of these, because there are certain things that you can get in. You can cost yourself money of other available coverage that you would have as far as underinsured motorist coverage. And if you don't know what you have to do with regard to the health insurance liens,
yes,
and the subrogation liens that you may have that you've got to deal with. And so you need somebody that knows what they're doing to take care of all of that and take care of it correctly, so that you don't have Anthem Insurance coming back against you later on saying, we paid $40,000 your medical bills. Why didn't you need to pay us back?
Yeah. And that's another issue that pops up, is they have a right to recover if they've paid out on your behalf.
Right.
And you secured a verdict or a settlement, they get a piece of that. And that's the health insurance lien.
Yes.
That we've done. And again, I'll put links to all of these episodes in the show notes for you. But Jeff, it's a complicated world, and I think AI's got some really good things, and I think AI is going to do a lot of great things for us. But when it comes to the law, when it comes to handling, especially a significant case in terms of the injuries or the medical procedures and problems like that, I'm not sure I'm ready to just throw it over the wall and say I hope it works. I think I'd rather have somebody that I can sit down with and go, explain this to me.
I think that's the best thing to do is to, as I talked about in that other episode, you need to have an attorney on your side, someone who knows what they're doing, who knows the law and knows how to handle the case correctly, and can file it if it needs to be filed, will take care of all of the liens, make sure you're getting all the available coverage that you would be entitled to for your injury.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Jeff, if somebody does want to get in touch with you, they've got questions, they've been injured, whether it's a car wreck or Social Security disability claim that they're trying to file, or workers' compensation, maybe they've been in a workplace accident.
Yeah.
How do they get in touch with you?
The best way to get in touch with me is by phone. You can call the office. I have two offices, one in Murray and one in Hopkinsville, but I just have one phone number, 270-753-0053. You call that number, get it to my office. If you call during our normal business hours, you should get a live person answering unless we're on the other lines. Right. At that point, that's the best way to get in touch with me. There, you can email me at jeff@jeffrobertslaw.com. You can go to my website and it's got a contact link on that as well. So there's several other ways that you could reach out to me, but the phone call is usually the best way to reach out to me.
Well, and I think being able to pick up the phone and get a hold of an attorney is really, that's the service you want. And speaking of service, your firm actually has a motto.
Yes, we do have a motto. Motto for the office is that we provide small town service and deliver big city results. We've had that motto for a while now. We try to live up to that motto in every case that we handle. And if you read our reviews on Google, I think we're doing a pretty decent job.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, if you go out and you Google the Roberts Law Office Murray, you're going to see all the reviews there. And for a solo practitioner, you're the only attorney in the office to have that many 5-star reviews is outstanding.
Thank you.
We've talked about that in the past, but your clients like the work that you do, and that's fantastic. Having done it for over 30 years now, it's quite the reputation. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Friends, I hope you enjoyed this first video podcast episode that we produced today. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks and publish an upcoming episode for you. But do us a favor. If you like this episode, let Jeff know, respond or comment on the post when you find it. And feel free to share it out on your social media. We're just trying to make sure that other people get this kind of information so that they understand, hey, there is something to be aware of. And maybe AI's good for your office work, but it may not be good for your injury claim. And I think that's a core factor in today's discussion.
True.
Right.
Yeah, it has its place. Being your attorney in your case is not the place for it, in my opinion.
Probably not. Well, Jeff, again, thanks for your time, guy.
Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Roberts Law Office Injury Podcast. Jeff will return in 2 weeks. Until then, he invites you to visit jeffrobertslaw.com and follow his firm on Facebook. At the Roberts Law Office, you'll find a history of small town service and big city results.